every single swipe, you are seeing the most perfect family. If we don't keep that in check, there's gonna be this negative cycle that happens because you're gonna start believing that your value is based on their perception of what you're doing, not the reality of what's actually happening. But can I make this most picture-perfect scenario to say, I am the Joneses? Because I believe that there's a cause that's happening behind the scenes in our psyche that's really creating this problem. And that's this idea of, kind of keeping up with the Joneses, to envy what they had. But it's gotten so much worse. And it's not that social media is the devil. I'm not saying that. But every single swipe, you are seeing the most perfect family. Now, keeping up with the Joneses is not just your neighborhood. You're seeing these extravagant weddings. You're seeing these extravagant vacations. You're seeing these beautiful houses while you're still sitting in your $100,000 neighborhood. And you can't help but think that you're falling behind. The whole reason that we chose to go to college, let's be honest. I have a lot of pride in my children, and it brings me pride when I know my child's going to go to this particular university and they're going to go do this particular thing and they're going to graduate from my alma mater, if I even said the word right? Like, it brings you pride. So kids, strap up and get some debt. It's bringing me some pride. But it's also the kid who doesn't appreciate the debt. And it's because their friends are going to this, that the friends are doing this, so this is what I'm supposed to do, this is just the most natural step, and no parent actually takes the time to say, hold tight, because they also don't want to be the parent that said, my kid didn't go to school after high school. Like it's something wrong about going out and getting a certificate and getting blue-collar work or whatever the case may be. It's also the reason why kids are having a hard time, and young adults, with buying a starter home. It's the reason we've got a median house price of $422,000, and it's a stinking 4-bedroom, 3-car garage, and it's their first home, and you're like, how in the world did you afford that, kid? I made the same mistake when I was 23 years old. And by 26, I filed bankruptcy. One of the reasons I'm passionate about teaching you these things is because I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I had made, or I at least want to make sure that you're aware to tell those kids how to manage their finances. It's not that going to school or buying these nice houses, I'm not saying they're not a good thing. But when that decision is being made because of direct and indirect social pressures, that's a problem. And if we don't keep that in check, there's going to be this negative cycle that happens, because before you know it, you're going to be like, you're going to start being envious. And you're going to start being bitter. And your worldview is going to get warped, because you're going to start believing that your value is based on their perception of what you're doing, not the reality of what's actually happening. But can I make this most picture-perfect scenario to say, I am the Joneses? To break this cycle, we need to introduce a different emotion. We've got to build a more stable foundation. And one of the most basic foundations that you can create that will propel you for everything else is to create content. Now, I'm not talking, guys, just be okay with where you're at and don't want for anything. I'm not saying that. Desire can be a healthy thing. But I am saying that we should have content in the journey that we're traveling. And we've got to stop comparing our chapter 3 to their chapter 20. Yeah, but Jake, you don't understand, because every time I see my peers out there, I'm seeing chapter 20s all over the place. And I feel like I am behind the 8 ball every time that I look in my social media feed and I feel these pressures, and I don't know why I can't afford to go out to eat the same way they do, and I can't do this and I can't do that. You got to be careful with that thought process, because left unchecked, it will create that jealousy and discontent. And those negative emotions will not give you sustained, long-term, positive actions in your life. It will start to cripple you. It will start with this emotion, woe is me, and then it paralyzes you in the action of it is what it is. Woe is me. It is what it is. It sounds like someone that's given up on chasing the life that they want because they constantly see someone else doing what they're not doing, and they're not keeping those emotions in check. So to protect against that emotional trap, we've got to build a foundation of contentment. How can I be content, Jake? 3 things. Number 1, we have got to take back control of our life. That's a hard pill to swallow for some, because that means we got personal accountability. But listen, in that is the practical solution. You taking personal accountability is the first actionable solution to not only having an emotion of content, but transforming your life to the life that you want it to be. But Jake, you don't understand. This has happened to me. That has happened to me. While not every circumstance is our fault, how we respond to each other is 100% our responsibility. While not every circumstance is our fault, how we respond is 100% our responsibility. There is no shortage of stimulus in our life. There's no shortage of events in our life. We cannot allow those events to dictate our actions and reactions. Between stimulus and response is freedom of choice. And you have a responsibility to choose the actions that are positive and uplifting and working towards your life goals. Don't give in. Don't give the control. Don't say, but Jake, this. The second you start pointing your fingers, the second you gave it all the power. Number 2, we've got to be proactive to be content. You may not have a problem with personal accountability. You might say, yep, Jake, I screwed up everything. Still not content. So there's a few more things, right? We've got to take personal accountability, but we've got to be proactive. Part of feeling content is knowing that you're flipping the page. Knowing that, yeah, I'm in chapter 3 and they're in chapter 20, but baby, I'm flipping the page. And I'm going to get there. And I'm going to get to chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. I'm moving. I'm going to get there. And so now we can actually congratulate that, like, good work. Good job on being at chapter 20, because I know how hard it is, because I'm still flipping the pages in my book. So congratulations. Completely different change of perspective compared to feeling like you're envious of what they've been able to do and that you're not there yet. We're being content in the journey. Part of that is being proactive. Stephen Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People in the late 80s. There were 7 habits. The first 3 habits had to talk about how to move from being dependent to independent mentally. And I can summarize the 3 habits. You should read the book. I'll summarize the 3 habits in one sentence. Be proactive with the end in mind, starting with the most important thing first. Well, okay, let's tie that into the finances side of things. Hey, Jake, I'd love to be out of debt. Okay, the end in mind, be out of debt. We got to be proactive with the end in mind, starting with the most important thing first. Well, that means you might need to look at your debts and your balances and your cash flow to determine what's the best thing to do first. If you don't know, there's a professional. And there's a professional in every single field in America that can tell you, you want this end goal? Super. Be proactive. Start here. Be proactive with the end in mind, starting with the most important thing first. But guys, it's more important to me that we have a group of people that are thriving, not just financially, but I want you to be thriving emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, which means I want you to apply that particular equation to other aspects of your life, because maybe there's a relationship that doesn't look the way you want it to look like, with a spouse, with a child, with a parent, with a friend. Be proactive with the end in mind. Starting with the most important thing first. I want a better relationship. Fantastic. Tell me where to start. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's a good deed for that loved one. I don't know what the task is. You do. But don't think that it's going to happen once. One day I'm going to be able to be proactive with the end in mind, starting with the most important thing first, and it's just going to solve the problem. No, we've got to live the life that we want to live every single day, and we've got to work that direction. Because just like you have a debt balance that you're trying to pay off, it's possible in a relationship that you've got a debt balance in the relationship bank of that individual. And it is going to take consistent deposits into the relationship bank of that person before it's gotten back to even and then positive, where we can actually have a good relationship again with that individual. The last thing you need, we got to be proactive, right? We got to take control, accountability, be proactive, and then we got to believe that we can obtain it. The second that you don't believe that you can obtain it, that's like a speed cycle for going into envy and depression and despair, because you feel like, gosh, I know I'm the one that's responsible, and I feel like I'm being proactive. I don't see how I can even get it. I don't even know how I can do it. I just can't do it, and I keep watching all these other people do it. You've got to believe that you can do it. And the most powerful thing about belief in your goal are the byproducts that come from that. What are those byproducts in believing? Courage. If I believe I can do something, then I will courageously go after it. If I believe I can do something, I'm going to be persistent in getting it. If I believe I can do something, then I'm going to have gratitude the whole way through, because I'm going to appreciate the fact that it's one more step, and I'm a little bit closer, and I'm a little bit closer. Because, guys, you cannot experience true gratitude while envying for somebody else's something. You've got to have content, personal accountability, being proactive, believing you can get it, to sit there and actually breathe the most powerful emotion that you've got, which is gratitude. because from gratitude you can accomplish anything. So I appreciate that the social pressures that we face every day are real. But it's vitally important that we quiet the noise. We need to be asking ourselves a question. Is the life I'm living, the decisions that I'm making, are they leading me to the life that I want to live? Is the life that I'm living, the decisions that I'm making, me leading me to the life that I want to live? I hope you can say yes. Because if you can, there's peace, and there's content, and there's gratitude. But for those of you who cannot say yes, be proactive with the end in mind, starting with the most important thing first. Napoleon Hill, this is my closing thought, was tasked with writing a book right after the Great Depression. The book was entitled Think and Grow Rich. And he was asked to write this book because we had an American civilization that no longer believed in the American dream. Heck, they hardly even believed in the ability to produce for their own home. And people knew Napoleon Hill would know what to say. Why did they know this? Napoleon Hill was the leading researcher for 500 of the largest industrial giants that lived in that time. He surveyed and spent time with people like Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Henry Ford, Carnegie, just to name a few. And he knew there's a secret that these people have. And the publisher said, Napoleon, just share the secret. Let's bring the belief back to the American civilization. And he did, and that book was a very powerful book and one that probably many of you in the room have read. But I'm going to summarize it real quick in one sentence. The things that you consistently think on, believe you can obtain, and persistently work towards is the life that you will create. The things that you consistently think on, believe you can obtain, and persistently work towards is the life that you will obtain. So many of our bad decisions are just rooted in this me trying to create a perception that's just not there, and because there's not a real content. But guys, if you only had 10,000 days left, do you want it focusing on the Joneses? Or do you want it focused on building the life that you wanted to live and the legacy that you wanted to leave? We got to stop focusing on the Joneses and start focusing on the tasks and activities that help us live the life that we want to live.